They're still just sitting. Okay, there we go. And then this hang on is not live. Okay, cool. Well, I don't know why it didn't work the first time. Sorry about that. To which one? I love Parkers. Okay. Is that the Google Plus? Is that the Google Plus method? Oh, it is. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Oh, it is. Okay. Thanks.
months ago. Some of you might have been in regional meetings here about an RFP and so forth. There's been a lot of sweat and guts and frustrations of people working this project that we want to come and share with the United community. It's always sad that we don't have enough people here, but then we can have a session next where you can support the people, get involved. And I really want to thank people like John, Justin, and James, especially. It's been months and months of effort. Some of us only came in much later, but it does take people's time and it's on behalf of community interest. So the Proboa, the August effort was run by James Bowling. Yesterday night. He was taken up to hospital yesterday with meningitis, which is obviously serious. So we hope he's going to recover well. And I do hope that this is one of the SafeParks initiatives that he ended up in hospital. Because he has been put a lot of effort in. Can I please ask, before I go into the agenda, that we have a constructive and unemotional discussion tonight? This is a very emotional topic. And for us to start arguing and having not positive debate about this is not good. It is for all of us with an opinion, we all like to criticize, but we have to find some common ground, find one solution, implement it, because 6 months from now we'll not debate what's good and what is not good. And that's why this has been 8 months of the year. We can't have 8 months in this topic. And I also want to remind you guys about the famous saying that I was speaking with is, we should not simply say what does parks, the parks give us, but what can we do? What's our role in all of this? Do we contribute money or your time to this? Or do we just wait back and say that everybody sort out the security for us? How much is our lives and the lives of our people around us will be? So if you think about this, you'll see the stats later, but there's between 20-25% of parks, the park will actually contribute to proactive security, not the alarm system. Is that really enough? We can get a better solution enough, motivate our neighbors and friends to contribute to this. And we can speak critical mass. And before I stand up and vote the agenda back, I just want to remind you, there's going to be a voting and contributions for either electronically or and hard copies of those who prefer to do like that. Please don't leave before you do that, because it's important. We value your input and your vote, and we would like to so let's start the official discussion. I'm going to go into the agenda. I've said where I am, and the rest of the people is going to talk about it. Transport John here. Michael Weaver is our own independent security expert sitting in the front here. He's going to be quite a talking tonight, helping us talk about having independent expert opinion about what RFP and so forth. And we're going to talk about that. And that's been really helpful for us as a meeting. So, just to say who we all are, I mentioned John, James Bowling, Bugard Hospital, Alexander, I don't know if Alexander's here, I was going to next week, and then Justin sitting in the front here. John and Justin has been initially part of the founding members of ParkSec and Second in ParkSec. Myself, Adam Levy, sitting here in the front, some of you don't know Adam. So the three of us will be presenting the Parkers community group, and it's three from ParkSec. And then Julie in the front here has been administrator, always sent out the weekly and monthly newsletters to all of you, and then Mike Link, as I said before. So at this stage, I think I'm going to go hand over to John. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Morris, and thanks to everyone for coming on this evening. We understand you for this evening. It was relatively short notice, but we thought it was important to report back to the community about the process we followed and where we were and what our thoughts and the way forward are. Just to give you a bit of background, because I think there are a whole lot of community organizations, residents organizations rattling around, and maybe just to clarify two things where, and specifically what is SafeParks. Importantly, it is incorporated as a non-profit entity. Originally, it was formed by the three resident organizations in the area, in an effort to try and align with the best interests of the residents. Obviously one of the players is ParkSec. And ParkSec, for those, I'm sure we've got a lot of contributors here tonight. ParkSec essentially has been running the public space security initiative for the last 6 years, with Fortec as our nominated service provider. It is a voluntary association of residents. We've been accused of being WhatsApp agents, marketing front, amongst other things. But very much I live in 9 part-time adjustments in 11. So, and we have got some partners residents on our steering committee as well. So very much residents. Sole focus is the interests of the community, trying to make us safe. And as some of you know, about where Fortec has been our service provider. Way back when we went through a competitive tender process similar to what we've done now, obviously the landscape was slightly different. It was just after that in part-time work. There was a lot of emotion. Cap schemes were the sort of suit of the day at the time, and they were very expensive, which made it unaffordable for parks. And at that stage, Fortec stepped up and assisted us to get steam on off the ground and have 2 vehicles driving us. As I said, when we started independently of the Residents Association, because our sole focus was to get security on the street. This time round, there was a lot of momentum from Parkhurst Residents and Business Owners Association. And obviously, we had been aligned with the part-time North Residents Association to try to get together. We spent probably about 3 months last year trying to align all the interests and work together. Unfortunately, there was some part-time North Residents. There was some emails flying around earlier this week. But there was a falling out with the PMRA who did choose to withdraw in December. We soldiered on soldiered on to the process. So just in terms of what we see as the SafeParks role, as I said, when we started out, we didn't have a lot of money. We couldn't afford administrators, so we went with a very lean and cheap scheme where we handed all our control over to Fortec. Collect the money and basically we went on a monthly basis to manage what they were doing and sort of hold them to some sort of accountability. And to a large extent, it has worked well, but we need to evolve. So what we see our role is to appoint a single security service provider for the public space for parkers and park. So this doesn't necessarily affect who you get to monitor your alarm. If you can't roll the latency in Cortex, NYPD, then that's fine. You don't need to change. But what we're looking for is people to support the public space. And what we've negotiated now, which is different from the previous scheme, is that all contributions, whether it's proactive or reactive, any money that the service provider derives from the community is allocated to the benefit of the scheme, which is a far more sensible model. The intention is to enter into a comprehensive SLA with the service provider to have penalties and key performance indicators, so that if there is a drop in service, and it's not only going to be low crime, it's going to be responding to marketing, one person in a vehicle, sort of they're going to be a wide range of performance indicators. So call it an aggressive approach to service level management, and we intend also deploying services offline on an ongoing basis to manage and monitor those services. Again, different from the current scheme, the idea is to hold the purse strings, and we as an organisation will collect monies ourselves, so that we're not to ransom and use those, derive some leakage from collecting the contributions of residents. Talking about collecting contributions, we also looking to register the benefit organisation. So hopefully that Then, yeah, that's a video that's a mail out tax deduction. Obviously, you saw today with it that yesterday that the SARS is getting stricter and looking more taxes, but it's certainly something we're looking at, and our service providers have indicated that they're going to legislate. Okay, so that's just a brief overview of where we are. I'd now like to call my computer just to give you an overview of some of the security concepts and solutions.
Thanks, Joe. Hi, good evening. Some of you will remember me from the Boomer presentation a couple of months ago, where we had the security portion. So I'm back. But just to give you more of a focused summary in terms of the technical aspect. So as John was alluding to, as part of this presentation, the main aspect behind it is that it's public space. It's moving out from your own microcosm of everyone's house to the public spaces, whether it be the streets, the streets, roads, and also the business areas as well. So that's what this solution is intended. So the actual definition of it, or how public space security can be done, was due to the increasing challenges owing to the public space challenge. If one starts to analyze crimes, one can see that obviously criminals need to get into people's houses, and normally the quickest, easiest route is via public infrastructure, proper roads, potentially circuitries in that. So that's why it makes sense to have the necessary surveillance, the necessary protection in those areas. Importantly, you also want to access your own intelligence. Yes, there is police, and believe it or not, the police are assisting a lot more compliance, surprisingly, in revealing certain parts of information. They're also offering a lot of assistance. So in terms of that, working with them, you want to simultaneously gather your own intelligence for various inputs. So not just incident-based, but start looking at suspicious activity, people loitering, vehicles loitering, and that's when you really start putting together quite a good, effective solution before the actual incident takes place. Also, you want to optimize internal structures, use synergies, have one single entity managing the overall structure. It doesn't make sense, as some of you possibly have seen now in the various street initiatives. While those are effective, they're effective to a certain extent. You've got potentially cameras on your own section of the road, but it isn't very effective when a vehicle comes into the area from one street, from one point, and then exits in another. No one really notices that. You can't run that intelligence behind it. So that's one of the major benefits behind it. And also, there's one of the necessary points to just carefully balance the cost as well as benefits. I consult to organizations, multinationals, that everyone's situation differs, and even in this situation as well, there are obviously budgetary constraints, there logistics, there's take-up, there's ownership. So all those criteria, it's a very specific balance. That's what this solution that we'll be taking into account. But also importantly is that without public support, these threats cannot be combated entirely. And that's, as John Morris was also mentioning earlier, it's important to get the buy-in from everyone. So everyone attending here, great, but it's important to just speak to your neighbors when you're leaving, when you coming back. Be aware, call in that suspicious activity, but also importantly, working together, not coming in and just approaching or working on another opportunity, thinking that it is potentially going to work. But please just engage. That's the main point behind it. So the key objectives with public space security. Firstly, to identify the suspicious activity as well as criminal activity. But it's important to highlight that you want to identify the suspicious activity before the criminal incident. So you want to pick up on the people sitting outside your house, potentially with the brooms, potentially those guys that rummage through all the rubbish. Granted, while most of them are potentially legitimate guys that do want to, that are part of their own recycling scheme, at the same time, criminals do pay their bills, a lot of them, to understand routines of houses, how many people live in these houses. Try and get familiar with the domestic workers, and through that understand routines. So it's important that that's one of the key objectives. Also, important is that preventing criminals from getting to the target. Importantly, and as you can see, it mentions that driveways, as everyone's seen now, driveway robberies are becoming particularly prevalent. Reason being is that these are extremely difficult to combat. However, with the right technology, with the right system, and the right early interception, they can be easily combated. So from that point of view, again, having the right systems, you can easily intercept it before the actual crime occurs. And importantly, you want to apprehend the criminals and have them arrested by SAFE. At no point in time are any of these service providers allowed to or arrest any criminals. So that again, the intention is that they are literally they as in the physical officers as well as the camera solution, technical solution, all the eyes and ears on the ground to alert, to intercept but not arrest any criminals. And importantly, the dissipation effect, as it's called, is to drive criminal activity outside of the suburb. As can be seen in various other suburbs, simply installing cameras is one deterrent. So the minute criminals see that, great, it's a good start. The catch is that the criminals have become quite switched on and quite alert and aware, so they'll start testing systems. And I've seen this time and time again, where they will stand in front of the camera and they'll see, is anyone picking me up? Is anyone responding to it? So the initial step is great. Start off with physically placing cameras, but it's important to have connectivity. Luckily, you guys are in a great situation as a connectivity project is now finishing off. So the installation of this project is actually relatively easy. It's a case of putting the cameras in predefined and very specific locations to then act on that. So why is public space policing so important? There's the concept of security layers, and as I mentioned earlier, that even within your own house, you've got your own layers. So you've got your bedroom, for example, when you go to the bed at night, you protect yourself in your bedroom. You've got the gate leading into it. You've got your actual house, being the direct walls. You've got the outside rooms. So from that, you've got these concentric layers or these concentric bubbles. The intention now is to extend that beyond that. So beginning with your armed response, street guard protection, as well as protection of those public space areas. And also importantly is that these concepts, again, it is relatively new by that. I mean, within the last 10, maximum 15 years, these kind of concepts have been put to the test. In terms of testing public space security and the effectiveness of it. Very often you get people saying, why is it important, why do I really need it in me rather than fortify my house? And that's it, I'm safe. As nice as that is, as I mentioned earlier, the criminal element is going to be coming from the roads, coming off the main road, using the roads as well. So that's why you want the necessary protection. Obviously, if the crime happens at your gate, you now have the necessary elements to detect it firstly, and then to also act quicker on it. Then, as I mentioned, one of the highest priority crimes in this area is follow homes, amongst others. But I just wanted to highlight that while everyone's here, is that the follow homes are becoming particularly prevalent. So again, the objective is to collectively take control of this public space and make it unattractive for any would-be criminals. Because preceding any sort of criminal incident, there are various intelligence gathering needs. So it's important that when these criminals are walking past houses, they are trying to speak to various domestic workers, that they are sitting outside houses in a car standing, that they are detected, and that they do feel a sense of the security. Again, that's going to come up from detection, from a camera system, from the right solution. Okay. Okay, so yeah.
Okay. So I've covered some of the background, but I think it's important for people to understand that a very rigorous process is being followed. It's not that we just sat down in the room, flipped the coin, and come up with a proposal. As I mentioned, we've taken the appointed service provider for the last 6 years. The solution has remained largely the same. Crime rates have come down significantly, but our neighbouring suburbs are up again, and criminals have also adapted and involved two security approaches. So concerns we had is that 6 years ago we started with 2 to 3 vehicles in the suburb. Today we still have 2 to 3 vehicles in the suburb. And while, as I said, it's been largely successful, we are seeing spikes in certain crimes, especially in Parkhurst issue of vehicles. So we need to stay ahead of the curve. So in terms of this time, 6 years is a good stretch, and in terms of good governance, we thought it was important to re-tender or go out to tender again for the appointment of a preferred service provider, security service provider. The process, again, we were, as residents associations, we were trying to come together just to form a unified front. Provogo was extremely active in with the Blumenthal, the fiber to home project, as you know, where they had their own sort of momentum around the security initiative, and there was a lot of pressure from understandably from the Parkhurst residents specifically with this momentum and expectation that we created. So it was decided before we finalized our sort of relationship between us that Parkhurst would go out and issue a request for information. So this was specifically to Parkhurst. It was issued 24/7, ABT, Porter, CSS Tactical, Fidelity, NYPD, and State. I did it amidst NYPD in the mail that went out, but the reason that they didn't respond, but it was issued to them, they were invited to do it, but James tells me that they didn't respond to the request for information. We then formed the SafeParks working group, and we worked on developing a request for proposal, working on Michael. It was issued to the same organization with the same result. Again, ABT issued an email probably about a month ago, saying that they weren't excluded from the process. They submitted a bid, and even though it was about a week or so late, we agreed to have a look at it, because obviously that would be in everyone's interest that the greatest selection was so they were evaluated. And we had a form in the RFP for the expression of interest. So if you're going to submit a proposal, you are asked to notify us of that. None was received from NYPD either. So even though they didn't respond to the RFI, they were issued the RFP as well. Importantly, in terms of the RFP, we set down a standard solution, which we asked people to tender on. The reason was not that but it's important that you're able to compare apples with apples. And even though we set the standard sort of solution that we requested pricing on, the divergence of responses was scary as well. But it did give us an indication. This offering is what their pricing was and what their approach to security was. How technologically savvy they were, and what sort of experience they had as security, public space security organizations. That closed on the 5th of December. We evaluated it early January. As I said, the standard proposals varied quite greatly. But the proposals, we have a standard evaluation form that the evaluation committee, which is the same as the SafeParks committee, that set out the criteria that were required in terms of the RFP. So we measured compliance to that, as well as, very important in our environment, the question of pricing. So through this process, we boiled it down to 2 preferred bidders. And at that stage, it was at that stage that ADT filled out the running. The 2 best bidders were selected, and this was Cortac and CSS Tactical. As I said, because of the variance, they were both invited, and again, in terms of tender practice, we elicited or solicited a basically final offer from them, asked them to clarify aspects of their bid, and to sharpen their pencils in terms of pricing. And as part of that process, they were given the opportunity to have a question and answer and a little presentation to the evaluation committee. So that's the process we went through. Michael, do you just want to run through the salient features of the 2 bids?
So importantly, these are just a couple of the factors that I was looking through. So what was just interesting with the core solution was that included dogs, which again is a very interesting take. So the implementation of dogs or rolling out dogs through the Sprite and through various areas potentially sounds good. It does have its drawback, but what we liked about it was that they offered the use of dogs specifically along the Sprites, as well as interestingly in the streets after hours, to just potentially after an incident have the ability to pick up traces. So they're very specific dog. So they also focused on the Sprites. Their CCTV solution focused on specific areas, which was the point that concerned me. While it's relatively easy to set up a surveillance solution for one stretch of road, a citywide, or as it's called now, safe city solutions entail a lot, and they can be pretty complicated to that. So unfortunately, Core has quite limited experience in that, but in terms of street solutions, they have had some limited success. So they also demonstrated a very thorough understanding and analysis of the criminal landscape spent in this area. So they did understand it, and what was nice of them was in their proposal they had spent quite a bit of time detailing that threat analysis. The one point of concern was the area management cost. It was exceptionally higher than the CSS proposal. And in terms of general industry norms as well, it was exceptionally high. So that was one of the flags. We did ask them to clarify it, and clarity was actually given. There wasn't any sort of answer given in terms of bringing it down. There was no mention of the KPI penalty system. And this is fortunately and unfortunately one of the areas that I offer and that I normally get involved in. And throughout their entire proposal, there was a breach clause in the SLA, and that's it. While CSS had included quite a detailed KPI as well as penalty system, when the actual contract gets drawn up with the relevant single service provider, that's where I'll come and look at the practicality and on an ongoing basis monitor that. While they hadn't initially proposed it, one important thing was they didn't openly commit to installing the camera solution. CSS off the bat said, fine, there's a certain threshold, that's where they'll get involved and roll that out. So they'll take on that risk, which is again a good indicator in terms of appetite to get involved. That is typically the way CSS operates in terms of their normal approach into suburbs, but again, it's actually proven effective, and it's proven to be working. While Core was more taking a step back to say, let's start off with the vehicles, the dog solution. Technology will at times get there as well. So that was just one of the interesting observations. In terms of CSS technical, it initially started off and it was extremely technically centric proposal. They had addressed all the right points. Importantly, they had offered and they made very good mention in terms of the investigation possibilities. They do have quite a good investigation team. Core does have that, except it's normally by request, or you got to specifically get involved, and then if it's a certain severity of incident, Core will then volunteer. So CSS immediately volunteered it, but importantly, it acts as the intelligence capability as well. So not only are they investigating after incident, they're also looking at the trend analysis to hopefully predict crime and look at the various trends and react accordingly. The solution was also particularly intelligent and analytical, as well as current. The information that Core proposed wasn't actually. So on the license plate recognition, it was relevant, but in terms of the surveillance solution, it was related information in terms of general products and general concepts. CSS, importantly, has rolled out in Cradle Park, Athalalovo, Nanda. So if you take a drive through, have a look. And that's an important aspect as well, is that CSS are finding their feet. Yes, they are one of the first in the country in terms of a fiber safe city residential solution. But again, they're busy learning that, and that's important because it can be pretty complicated. Importantly, they were willing to fund the rollout technical aspect of it, which is an important indication of interest. And importantly, the provision of a dedicated marketing team, as well as further assistance. So what that entailed was we were just looking. It's nice and all saying, yes, we're going to go ahead and, as can be seen tonight, the turnout. Well, it may seem a big. Unfortunately, you need critical thresholds for the CCTV solution to expand. So CSS volunteered to put a dedicated marketing team at no cost to the residents to get this concept going. So, and it wasn't just a case of one line saying we're going to have phonathons. It was a case of having people on the ground that are going to be knocking on doors, going to be finding people Saturdays, Sundays as they walk around, and just speak to them. But importantly, aggressively market it, which is very necessary with these schemes.
Okay, hopefully you can all see that. So what we felt, obviously as an evaluation committee, we came to a decision. It wasn't a unanimous decision, but what I wanted to do was sketch some of the factors that played a role, and in terms of where the bidders actually scored their funds. So in terms of knowledge of the two suburbs, obviously Cortec has an intimate knowledge and an extensive knowledge. They've been very good at what they've done. They're a very effective operator. CSS, good, they are involved in our neighbouring suburbs. They do well, but in terms of that, certainly Cortec cannot infront. Looking at the ability to provide a tactical vehicle solution, the 24/7, two guards on vehicle. Look, I mean, anyone who's dealt with Cortec knows they are just brilliant. That is where they excel. Certainly, we've spoken to the residents associations that use CSS, and the feedback is similar. So I think between the two, there's not much to choose. They both sort of military police influences, they pay their staff well, they're well trained, they're vetted. There's a lot of governance control about it. So we felt that they were fairly equal. Experience in rolling out suburb CCTV solutions. As Michael points out, Cortec, they have been doing it in our suburbs. Mixed results, some bad. CSS Dunfield obviously won the, I think we won the first round, and that's proven incredible on our rolling it out, and they also really happy as a service provider. So just in terms of that technical ability, the feeling was that CSS probably came out on top. Presence in neighbouring suburbs. Cortec was present in Saxonwold and some other areas slightly further. We asked them about the fact that they've lost these contracts recently. It appears to be a political thing, certainly not related. We understand to service issues, but the fact is that they are no longer present in neighbouring suburbs. If you are present in Craighall, Dunhill, Greenside, and this is one of the things that they stress to us, is that the parks area falls very much within their sort of target area from a strategic perspective, both tactically and commercially. It makes sense to them. And I think this is, people are going to say to us that often to put 2.5, 3 million into the suburb, they're not a charitable organisation, absolutely. But it is because of this where we are situated. So in terms of neighbouring suburbs, certainly we felt CSS came out of that. Current presence and subscriber base in the suburb. So this is a major factor in tax failure. There are 449 subscribers and contributors in Park Coast and 276 in part-time work. Now, that base has been garnered over 6 years. Admittedly, there was a bubble in the beginning, but those are half-full days. This is one of the issues that we need to poll amongst the residents and the supporters of the scheme is, if we choose someone else, will the subscriber base to go across. So certainly, Portac came out way ahead on that one, and that is a major consideration. In terms of investment, Portac didn't originally include any undertakings of investment. In subsequent discussions with them, they have undertaken to put in significant investment. CSS proposes up front in terms of 165 cameras around suburbs, license recognition, as well as a dedicated and significant marketing team. So the variation committee just felt that CSS had a more innovative, they came up experiencing implementing other technological solutions such as the LPR. Portac haven't implemented the license plate recognition system yet. CSS have. So CSS came out on top. In terms of level of armed reaction services, again, anyone who has Portac as their alarm monitoring people, they are phenomenal. I can't say enough about them. They really are fantastic. One has a lot of trust in the service they provide. They react, they phone when the alarm goes off, and they come when the alarm goes off. Again, no personal experience of CSS, but reports from neighbouring suburbs. I spoke to many analysts of the Residents Association, Charles Park, and they also speak very highly of the service provided by CSS. So that came out at the time. Marketing approach. This is one of the frustrations I've had with Portac over the last 6 years. They're not great in the market. They solve it. They don't see the need to make them shine. They do what they do and they do it well, but marketing is not one of them. So it always has been a challenge. I think we have finally got through, and they have indicated that they will put a dedicated marketing person on. CSS on the other hand, a very slick, strong marketing drive, very professional in presentations, which is good, but it also could raise alarm bells and saying, well, it's easy to make promises when you don't have the contract. It's how's the delivery? Again, looking at surrounding suburbs, they are surrounding suburbs who employ CSS are very happy, and that to me is an indication that they do make economic promises. As I said, we intend having a comprehensive service level agreements getting them to commit. We have got written commitments from both parties in terms of exactly what the efforts entail, so that there's no doubt some sort of announcement is made. So on the marketing further, we also asked filter, just in terms of the proposal of the commencement solution. Portac had provided, again, it's interesting to see, and this is again one of the challenges we face as a suburb, is that, lawyers, everyone knows what the reality should be. We understand people are going to have different views. Cameras are good, cameras are bad. Dogs are great, dogs are useless. Big vehicles, small vehicles. There are as many people as there are out there that are theories about security. So unfortunately, we have to pick an approach and go with it. Again, we've employed experts, we've seen what's been done in neighbouring suburbs and what's worked. But I think the key is we have to evolve and we have to move and be innovative. So I'll go through the starting proposals, but you'll see from that CSS did come out on top of that. Willingness to invest and take risk, as we said. Initially, Portac didn't offer investment and had expected, even with the camera solutions, various streets have asked Portac to take over their install cameras on the streets, and that's funded on a street basis. So that's not part of the Parks initiative as yet, but the idea is specific streets have been talking to Portac as the current security provider in the suburb. But yeah, in light of their pricing, it seems as though they're not prepared to take risk and widening the subscriber base, but rather trying to extract value from the existing subscriber base. Market will tell it it's in view of tech believes, go for the people that want to and ask them to pay what they believe is worth the security and don't go after all the same. CSS, very well, and have expressed the importance of the area to their strategic plan. So CSS came out the top there. Value add and innovation. Again, to me, it's just the distinction between the two organizations. Tech are CSS, they've got, in fact, CSS currently have more actuaries than Tech as marketing people. So the idea they teamed up with certain insurance brokers where rebates are going to be offered on insurance for subscribers because of the improved security. And as I said, well, both parties, again, Tech have subsequently come back and said, listen, we can match that, we can assist that as well. But again, just the innovation and the commerciality of CSS sway the evaluation committee. Ease of implementation, so yeah. Yeah, sure. The commencement solution. I've got a whole slide that I'm going to start, so I could gloss over a little bit, but yeah, I will go into that in greater detail. So, and don't be sort of swayed. I mean, there are a lot of points where CSS has come out on top, but if you look at where Tech is strong, they are extremely important areas. So, in terms of ease of implementation, tomorrow we can start the scheme. If you want to go with CSS, you've got to put in a lot of time and effort and garner a lot of support from the residents. So, you know, it's a no-brainer to do this. Tech can switch over to loyalty in the suburb. Again, I think there's a huge amount of loyalty to they have as a security provider a fantastic service, I believe. CSS, no presence, they haven't even come in because they don't see the importance of servicing and trying to split the buck. I mean, this is, and maybe Mike can talk about it more, but there's again, as I mentioned, the divergence of views on security approaches. Some people say, well, why don't we just get everyone? You know, why are we selecting one? Why are we selecting one horse? We can have ADT cars, we can have Tech cars, we can have CSS cars. Yeah, I mean, first, a sustainable approach. You give all the resources to one person and make sure that they're accountable and do the job right, rather than relying on a lot of people that are not accountable. Again, you look on the other partners page, people say, why are you doing this? And, you know, why aren't people doing that? They're not contractually obliged to. Their contract is to respond to alarm activation. Some of them do some sort of crime prevention in the streets. I don't know the extent to which, I don't even want to comment on it. But the point is that by getting a single service provider, we get someone who's accountable, they're getting paid for, and that is their job. And we need to get as much money into that so that we can get an effective solution. We can have dogs, we can have cameras, we can have drones flying over the place if we really want to. So, yeah. As I said, loyalty in the suburb, Tech by far and away carries the can. Michael mentioned the issue of proposal detailed KPIs or key performance indicators. Tech very, very forthcoming on that. CSS are comfortable with the concept and gave us some examples of what they believe were key measurements against which they can be evaluated on an ongoing service level basis. Right, so now we come to the proposed base commencement solution. So the important,
These figures are partners only?
No, the scheme is a joint scheme. So they have been questions raised saying, but hang on, Park 6 crime issues are vastly different to Park 10. And that absolutely they are doing. And we're certainly not proposing one-size-fits-all solution for both suburbs. But there are benefits to be had in terms of shared infrastructure, shared resources, that those costs can be shared. So ultimately, it's a numbers game. However much money we have, the more money we have, the better security we can get. Now, in terms of, I think one needs to bear in mind, and one might be a little bit shocked or put off by the variance in numbers between CORTAC and CSS. That does not mean that CORTAC and CSS are not. That 470 represents the current contributions per month from ParkSec contributors. Okay, so obviously, if CORTAC were appointed as the service providers, it would just roll into the new contract, and they would continue to cover that amount. CSS, on the other hand, if they were appointed as the preferred service provider, would have to essentially start from scratch. And what they've done is they've come to us and said, well, this is our base solution as set out there. We'll see some of the stuff they haven't proposed, but that solution from CSS is practical. They said our overhead is essentially 375,000. There are some other costs, obviously, we require an administrator and the services of Michael, so theirs is slightly lower than that. But they said this is our cost. We are prepared to come in and we will take the risk of converting the residents. We will put in 6 marketing people to go around, and if we can't sell our own solution, then we don't make money. But we require break-even in terms of vehicles and personnel to start. The cameras are out of the pocket. They're taking £2.5 million out of their pockets to install the cameras. Again, this is not blanket coverage of the site. So they'll be placed at I think it's 48 poles in key points, and they will monitor them on a rotational basis instead of just monitoring every camera, because there's a cost to monitor the camera. So once we get enough numbers, if they're appointed as the service provider, then those cameras will come online, and it's going to be quite a tricky negotiation with them if they're selected, because obviously that 376 is their base cost. And again, with both service providers, I think as we mentioned in previous communication, is that we're looking at a cost-plus model. So we know what their costs are. We've looked at it comparatively. They seem in line. 1 or 2 are kept, as Michael mentioned. But we know what their costs are. We recognise they might have an overhead, and then they're entitled to margin, because these guys need to be successful. If they understand business, they are business. So we appreciate that. So certain thresholds negotiated in terms of we get more security, they get more, they start covering their overhead and margin. So just to go through, in terms of the base solution, 24-hour vehicles with 2 arms.
Sorry, can I ask one question?
Yeah, sure.
That cost there, the cost on the left,
Yeah.
includes my armed and home response.
Yeah.
Cost on the right does not include my armed and home response.
So you can't, no, but it does, because the armed response gets allocated to the pool. So it is, if people convert their armed response and proactive, so whether the armed response and proactive no longer makes a difference. Whatever residents are paying to the service provider, that goes into the line. Currently, we've got a proactive gets allocated to the scheme, armed response to pure profit, which I don't think is fair, because it's not a additional or anything like that. But I think just to stress the point I think you made, is that part of the 470 is just what's currently being required. If we've got a 470 for CSS, that's what they will start with as well. So maybe it is a slightly unfair comparison. CORTAC or Gavin what they've got, CSS and say this is our cost, and we need 375 million to start. So very good to answer my question. You know, that price wasn't good. Yeah. So that's a monthly cost. And the thing is that to me, to talk to individual subscriber numbers is potentially problematic. Amount per subscriber. What CSS has said is that in order to get to that 375 per acre, so it's like, in order to approach it, what we do is we took the total amount that is going to cost. As I said, we added some of the SafeParks overhead, which comes out to 25 the administrative and security advisor, and then we split it into two sides. So to the extent that part of this might want thermal cameras away on the spread, that cost of thermal cameras will be allocated to Park. Park also has 450 subscribers, Park more than 208. So we are treating the pricing on a differential basis, but basically splitting the cost of the base solution. And again, no doubt. So what it works out, that 375, you look at the subscriber number, converts everyone, the same number of supporters, we will essentially be at the same, if you take both arm response and proactive, but if you just contribute to proactive, then the CSS portion will be slightly more conducted by whatever. Just take proactive and reactive, you would pay the same. So I'm with contact at the moment, I pay 101.4 a month, and I would pay the same amount for that solution under CSS, and obviously the same amount for the contact solution. So, can I go ahead? Sorry, you get the question. Yeah, the contact number should be a representative number, but also the should be a cost number, not a current base number based on the subscribers. If you compare that, then you will see the 14,000 is much lower than the 45, because we're talking cost base. Well, of course, is based on a solution that's got less quantity. Well, so now, and maybe the point is that what we're talking about here is maybe not so much the things got away from this. So if we start with contact tomorrow, then it's over 5. And I'm going to give us the solution fast. They have the subscriber base, they have the contributor, and that's what it's going to do. This is one of the people. Subscriber base. It's not the cost of the subscriber base now. Since is cost base, and that's what it will cost to sell it. The full 70 that cost. No, it's not a cost. No. What I do on and sell I think you were comparing apples with pears. The cortex is only for a very small amount of people with that amount of money. Yeah? They are not prepared to put any extra with the cameras anywhere. So what are they doing with the money? It's spread over the whole community, then it will be far lower than 800. And don't forget that Cortex already and RPD and a lot of others are already in the community, driving around with their vehicles. I think Cortex at this moment has got more than 2 cars already 24 hours driving around, so there's a lot of extra costs. On top of that, if you go to CSS, you get 3 extra cars driving around for far less money. And so I don't think Cortex is doing anything more than what they do at this moment already. Okay, so in terms of what's new, sorry, what's the what is the best of the process? What's the subscriber base? There's no subscriber base. Yeah. Okay. So that's a risk. And on the left? That's a risk. And on the left, subscriber base only sits at 720 of it. So 449. And that's between each other. So I think this is going to be a risk. It says that if you have a subscriber base, you're going to be multiple. That means that it could be multiple TV here. That's as fast as solve in the long run. Because you might find that for the fiscal support that we take, initially about putting in those extra things, and then soon enough to put up the cost. Alternatively, CSS tax will not do exactly the same. So I don't think the price of the stocks is a significant indicator of what will actually cost us. No, and again, as I said, that is pure cost. So on top of that, Justin, what was the?
Yeah, so I think just from a financial perspective, the CSS proposal 375, they're not going to make money out of it. They're just hoping that the scheme will grow with the marketing they do. So you can't really look, where we're getting the 470, we're getting all those back, what we're getting existing, a kind of extras, dogs, the marketing person, the K9 unit, we're getting some extras. But the CSS things, they're taking a chance that everybody will come on board. They're going to lose money at the 375 level. But that's their risk that they're prepared to take. Maybe that explains it. So it's not their cost. Yeah, your point's valid.
Yeah. And I think the point is not maybe leading that it's not intended to be comparative, but it's just saying this is what it's going to cost us as a neighborhood to start. CSS will offer a strike team. So essentially we'll be getting 2.5 levels of CSS. We will still be on the current 2 vehicles for the 2 suburbs. So not 2 for suburbs, and both of these is for the whole area.
It's slightly more, it's a highly technically trained, more technical intervention units. You can compare it to the rapid response unit of the police. So they work on specific intelligence information, and they act as the backup to the vehicle. They do lots of, they'll visit construction sites, assist SAPs. They're kind of the more specialized unit, obviously much higher standards, but a lot more high-skilled technical officers with them. So a lot of them have ex-task force or foreign military experience as well.
Yes, the daytime.
No, that 12 hours will be decided again based on the threat analysis. So particularly they may be covering in the mornings if people are leaving to the office and coming back in the evenings and that kind of stuff. So it won't be mornings every day, it'll be based on the threat analysis.
Okay, so then in terms of CCTV cameras, Cortex has 64 currently in the suburbs. I think they have, I'm not sure how many streets it is, again, as I said, for the Parks Initiative, it's Residents Initiative. I think there certainly at least 1 in Parks on North with 11, and I think at least, I don't know, 2 in Parks.
Yeah, 3 poles.
Yeah, but streets.
Sorry, how many poles?
3 streets. 3 streets.
So that's a capital cost that's been covered already, basically.
Yeah, by the residents, and it's also important with the CCTV approach is that you're not going to get saturation with the 165. That's 48 poles in key areas. If specific streets want more coverage in terms of their streets, then they can raise the money and install those on their streets. Our feeling is with the streets, I mean, obviously it's important to have an underlying single service provider providing the solution, but personally, I don't think it's fair that certain streets carry other streets in terms of cameras. If you can mobilize a street, you can get the money to put up cameras, and that's what the street wants, then you carry the cost, you're not carrying the cost of some other street that has cameras but no control.
Just to clarify, CSS or something, or we want to
bit long-winded if I may. I speak on behalf of 10 families who the property and raise certain issues. Parkhurst, yes. And they've asked me to raise certain issues. One of the issues is, look, I must say, well done to the team that's gone through this effort to put this thing together. Being a public servant myself, tendering processes are required and openness. I would have liked to have seen the two companies, maybe even 3 companies, make their own presentations tonight, and we can vote by way of elimination. Okay. The reason why I say that is there's a lot here that I know of that is not here in the tenders. For example, Cortac has proposed, if they get 1,200 subscribers in the area, they will charge each household 766 Rand per family. That includes your home alarm monitoring, a small connection fee, home alarm monitoring, armed response, and 16 strategically placed number plate recognition systems. Sorry, can I finish, please?
So I'm happy with your first point, but okay, this is in terms of the 1,200 subscribers.
Okay. In terms of 1,200 subscriber solutions. 64 cameras will be currently installed, will remain operative. Then they'll install additional 87 cameras in the area. Plus they'll put 5 infrared cameras down the spray that'll pick up infrared movement at night vision, like you see in the movies. Sorry? I'll tell you that now. They've also got an insurance broker on board. They will activate an enhanced marketing team. One of the reasons for them not activating the marketing team, I'm in 8th Street, we had our cameras put in place, and I've had intensive engagement with Mark and the team. One of the reasons for not doing it is this marketing team is capital intensive, and there has been 1 or 2 individuals, I won't mention the names, that have been slating Cortac who happen to be sitting on this team, so much so they came to a meeting of ours on 8th Street and said, don't use Cortac cameras because this technology that they're using is the same stuff that CSS is using. Furthermore, we had an independent service provider on email that said to us, the technology these guys are using and Cortac is proposing, when linked to Boomer, will be as good as CSS. And that person happens to be sitting here tonight. So factually what he said there and what he said to us in email, I can show it to you, is 2 different things.
Sorry, can I just ask you, why is this not in the...
No, wait, sorry.
No,
Sorry, can I just carry on, please?
This is just a full market.
Sorry?
This sounds like a full market.
From me? No, all I want to see is openness. I want to see...
Can I?
It is in there.
Hold on a second. Can I, Charlie, I'm sure. First of all, I probably am the most impartial because I've owned a house in Parkhurst for 6 months. I've spent the last 12 years of my life living and redeveloping and repurposing Braamfontein, and that's where I spent my time. The first thing that most people say to me is, how the hell do you live there? How do you spend time there? Because sure as hell, you've got an issue with crime, you've got an issue with the perception, all the sorts of things that are the prevailing theme of our country. Those are the things that resonate with every single person that's sitting in a chair in this space here. That's the thing that resonated most of all with me when I impulsively bought a house on 13th Street. My next door neighbor came and said, welcome to the neighborhood, these are the things that you should probably be made aware of. I was put in a WhatsApp message, and I was, again, fed a litany of information, which is basically burglaries, card theft, this issue, that issue. I was alarmed by it. If I can tell you, in the 10 years that I spent living in Braamfontein, I probably didn't have 1/10 of what I've been subjected to in a single week in Parkhurst. Isn't that an indictment on what's happened over here? Because it certainly is to me. It's embarrassing. And if I may, I'd like to make an impassioned plea to everyone in this room to kick status quo in the teeth. And by all means, you can have a go at whomever it is that you need to have a go at in the moment. But there's a time to change, and there's a time to be operative, and there's a time to make a decision. And I think what's gone on long enough over here is that you have an incumbent, and this is exactly what the failing is in our country. We have an incumbent, and people are terrified about what the consequence of having somebody different might be, right? Quartech have been here for 6 years. They've got 20% uptake in the neighborhood. You know what you ask me about? I'd say that's an embarrassment, and that's an indictment of who they are. I don't care. I don't need to make a personal attack on either one of them, but I can tell you, as an impartial participant on this board committee, from what I saw, and I can tell you, very impressed with the fact that 6 people committed as much time as they did and took the time to sit down and thoroughly go through those proposals, right? Is something that I'd love to have had and have the privilege and luxury of in Braamfontein, because we don't have the luxury of having this many people that actively involved. People in Parkhurst care, right? They vote with their voices, they vote with their WhatsApp, they vote with their SMSs, they get involved. It's testament to the amount of people that are in this school today. So I'm saying is this, is that if you want, there is absolute transparency. I can't imagine 1/2 second that there's not been. Quartech turned around after the submission had been done and they changed their proposition. The reality is, if you ask me absolutely impartially, committees, should comprise of 3 people. I've said it to my own committee members over here, 2 of whom should be absent indefinitely, because that's where decisions get made, right? And to expect that you should open up this entire process to a voting forum, which is exactly what's happened now, to have every person get involved, you know what will happen? 10 years will pass by and nothing will ever get effective. Most of it will change. So what we now need to do is we need to now be honest with ourselves and endeavor to find a process that will make living in Parkhurst everything that you want it to be. People expend inordinate amounts of money, huge amounts of time. You want to walk in the suburbs. And one thing that I've learned in the many, many years that I've been in Braamfontein is the fact that we can no longer be reliant on the city of Johannesburg. We can no longer be reliant on SAPS and all of the other facilities that come with it. We create supplementary levies. This is not a free country to live in. We pay our rates and taxes, we compulsory. We could sit here talking about a system that is going to now insist that we pay 700-800 rand, however much it eventually lands up being, so we can create our own security, provide our own safety initiatives, become green, get off the grid. Is that a way to live? It's not a way to live, but it's the way we are compelled and forced to live. So what I'm saying quite definitively is, and again, it's just an passionate appeal and it's personal, is that this, an apples to apples comparison is a very clear definitive winner when it comes to what this rollout is. You've got one proposition who is prepared to put meat in the game because they understand what it means to safeguard a neighborhood indefinitely. Not some team that's prepared to come on the back of that saying, you know what, terribly sorry we've lost the bid. We come back and we'll maybe help out and we'll maybe come in. So I'm just saying is, you can do whatever sales pitch you need to be able to.
We're impartial. Adam, with respect, we're impartial.
We are impartial.
No, Adam, we're impartial. No, we're impartial. It's just no.
I'm saying it's impartial. And it's not, I'm not trying to promote that anyone should go with anyone else. I'm promoting that a decision gets made and this doesn't continue indefinitely. That's what I'm promoting.
All I was asking was, would not be better for all of us? I see the same company seats and everybody else sees. Just have both teams stand there. Because what I've had my experience in Quartech and with CSS. Have both teams stand there, run their pitch to us, and let's just see it.
Yeah, so, and again, anyone can go through the process and come up with a different process. So this is the process we've gone in huge detail, we've gone through financial proposals. It's very different to have someone standing up here. What you said in terms of what Quartech offered for 1,200 subscribers is absolutely right. Why it wasn't put up is because in 6 years, we have some limits. So when I'm
John, can we just finish the presentation? And then we can answer questions.
In terms of license category,
Cortex do not have an initial offering to the starter. Dedicated unit commander, they have one each. Multiple persons, CSS and community 6, Cortex 1. Cortex proposed a K9 unit, which CSS is not proposed. Likewise, they proposed foot controls where CSS is and not. So I think that's pretty much it. Okay, so I mean, you can see, as I mentioned, we voted as an evaluation committee. It wasn't unanimous. The feeling of the evaluation committee by dint of 5 to 2 was that 42. So basically, there was one vote in it. There was a preference for the CSS solution. This obviously does pose issues, and we went back to Cortex and discussed it with them. They have come back with a subsequent offer, which opportunity has not been offered to CSS yet. You know, I guess you could go on for this pretty for the 10 months that Adam's we based it on what was put in front of us. We had a transparent process. We had it was a fair tender process. Yeah, we came up with the best solution for the circumstances. There are definite risks. I mean, when I went into the process, I felt that it would be very difficult for Cortex to lose it. It was very steep. They had huge process. But that was the result. As I said, they've come back, they've sharpened their pencils, and I think there are 2 compelling proposals on the table. Obviously, as I mentioned, the risk is in terms of loyalty to Cortex, which we've seen how strong it can be. And I too am a loyal Cortex subscriber. But we can't get away from doing what is right and what the results of that rigorous process have been. So if we go with anyone, we need a minimum uptake, and we need a mandate from those that intend to continuously. So again, we've set up an online voting page. We've got forms here where we want, again, we want to hear the voice of the community. The community must decide. What is us saying here, this is what will happen. And you want to quick comment? What we've seen, little Chelsea as NYPD, people go off on projects of their own. Maybe we went on a project of our own 6 years ago. We can't wait. Time is there. We've got to get a solution in. So certainly, you know, we are not going to get 100% support in part-time or in partners. Unfortunately, I personally don't see the purpose of a PMRA run team process when a lot of the work has been done already. But that's me. PMRA feels different. They're entitled. But we are soldiering on, and we are going to look for support, we're going to market the solution, and we're going to hold the constituency. So, that's where we are. Sorry, should be part of the initiative.
Yeah, we get this right here and then add on to things that should be. That's the move.
And you've got to go subscribe to the best.
So, number two, as far as the solutions, clear as to the two solutions on the table. One is the traditional solution, one is a bit more like technical solution. What we should also discuss is, do you really believe that the technical solution is what it seems to be? In other words, is the solution is to really technical, is campus really going to be that effective as opposed to the traditional solution? That's just something we should think about. As well,
answer you on that.
Have you got much more to say? One more point. Do you want to finish?
And then as far as the evaluation is concerned, what are you proposing? Is this going to be a voting? Are you deciding some votes from the
well, we need to. So the way I see it, and again, it might be naivety, but our recommendation, the committee through the process felt that CSS offered a more compelling solution. However, there are 700 subscribers to Cortac, and without that, Cortac have unfortunately indicated that they won't be prepared to see the proactive revenues across. So it would be a case of going to every resident and getting them to switch their debit order. But yeah, that's.
In this space of time, with limited expertise, it would be difficult for a meeting like this to make an evaluation just in one meeting. It takes really a meeting with a lot of people to really get to make an evaluation.
And that was exactly the approach we decided on, because you can sway by popular, good talking or sleep talking. We spent 6 months on this. It really has been a comprehensive process.
Quite clear to me that this is the number. What is the monthly fee? Hey, my current provider, the new one. That's an important number because I was sitting at that one. Right, we give you what you said, but everybody doesn't have. Seems to be missing.
So where we are in terms of the numbers, is the numbers will stay the same. If we stay at the moment, that's what we're paying currently.
No,
I know, not 80.
if you are current right contributor to the Cortac part, the part 16, we pay the same amount. Why we can't do that number is because we don't know how many contributors. So that's the number, 375 or 480. And you divide it as a number of contributors.
Therefore, I can say, I certainly want to vote for you because that's a good rate.
Because it's
So
all
I feel like I'm voting
they quote us cost plus overhead plus margin and come out at a figure. It's not that 275, that's exactly. That's why. Actually, but that's why we have to be all support. Because if we've got 5 supporters, we can make that enough. No. So what the support first to say is, if the scheme gets off the ground, I will support it. And then once we know about, but it's like no, it's not, because you still have the choice. Once we've made a decision,
And once we have raised, based on current contributions, once we have sufficient money to launch, whichever scheme in the world, we have enough to do the Cortex scheme immediately.
John, it's the numbers staying the same. Can I just tell you what you did in 8th Street? I think this scheme, these documents these guys are presenting are far beyond just a street camera solution. What we did in 8th Street is we looked at guarding solutions versus camera solutions, and we had presentations from various companies, and we went to the analytical cameras, which absolutely were fabulous, and I can show you some stuff on the phone if you need to. But besides that, what we did was we collected everybody's names, went from door to door, we invited them to meetings, and we said, guys, what do you prefer, a monthly cost or once-off cost? We went for a monthly once-off cost. We got 4 poles up, 3 cameras each, more or less. And we said, okay, the cost is X. We divide that by the number of people that signed up, 44, and we split that cost, capital cost. What do I pay a month? I pay my subscription cost as I would ParkSec normally, and I pay my home alarm system as I would normally, and that's it. That's what we're paying, and we have a camera solution for that. It's interesting to see Anne here. Anne was involved in city improvement districts, and I learned something from Neil Fraser, is that the city improvement districts, you start them off in pieces, and these things start expanding. They get bigger and bigger. Whereas if you're going to, the approach we have now is a bubble approach, and we need to fill those gaps up, so we can close those concentric circles and have more cameras on it. And I think you are very right in saying that you need that closed monitoring solution. I just, from what I've seen, again I say, I don't know which presentation I was privy to, I would seriously have liked, in the city where I work, you have a evaluation committee. That evaluation committee gets presented its proposals to the adjudication committee, and if need be, the adjudication committee presents the presentation. And at the end of the day, the adjudication committee, city manager, the guys that pay these things, and we're going to be paying these things. And I would like to see an open process. Yeah.
Yeah. So CSS have given us the undertaking that they're prepared to take over vehicles, take over, look at whatever. Again, Cortec has given the indication that they're not necessarily going to give up the last fight if they are not selected. So this is why I mentioned that it is a significant risk by change. And believe me, having gone through trying to, our initial decision was for Cortec against ADT, which had something like 80% of the neighborhood, because we believed it was the right thing to do. Again, the easy decision is to go with Cortec. But for me, and again, I am a very strong believer in the service, but we don't just need military. We need shiny, we need stuff that residents can buy into. And I think that's the problem that Cortec has. Cortec, make no mistake, they are a fantastic organization that provide exemplary service. But based on the process, that was the decision we came up. So, yeah, I mean, people can come up with other ways. The coin come up with it. No, it is. And let me tell you, we've become friends with the Cortec. We've met with them on a monthly basis, the guys, Mark, in fact, I mean, one of the guys is in my focus school, and they play poker with the Cortec guys tonight. So, I mean, that makes it very difficult, but it's a question of doing the right thing. And that's all I'm interested in. I've tried to be transparent, but I really try to be transparent and do the right thing. And this is what we come up with.
Here last year, and I was thinking lots of the committee, the SafeParks committee have been doing. I have an interest, of course, as people living here, but also the general background interest in the ideas of security. I think the committee have done a good job, very difficult. I cannot see how someone, certainly I can't, and I can't see how a random audience, depending on random or interested, you don't have sufficient access can do good I know that a year ago the situation was not good. So I have to give Cortex a negative mark from there because they needed to be suggested improvement. But that is the argument. I don't want to vote in favor of a particular service provider. What I want to do is vote in support of the committee who have considered it, given it very careful thought, and come up with what they think is the best answer, and I will I have a number of things overall, it doesn't do a good job. I want to say it makes up a long time.
There are Vumatel sign-up forms. Michelle, what's it for? For your home installations at the back of the hall. So
I need to follow the right lines. I'm the chairman of the Residents Association, the release will tell you what's it 25 years to get here or so. And now I still want to get involved in analysis, paralysis, we want to do second suburbs. You know, time we get this thing together, we'll actually looking for various society Focus and follow on one community as far as one coffee police station. We've got one set of roads, and everybody exits and entrances. We all story and the problem will be problem in the analysis. There is another point. Some of you might remember previous chairperson Gladys also had a about crime. He came up with NYPD, I put on the chart. I found an AET. And I said, this is called a problem in the legacy. And I said, okay, so my question. And she said, why is it in NYPD? She said, can I bring the price down to the staff? And I said to her, the people who have been guarding my family and my dogs have been overcharging all this time. And I think this is the essence of it's our own feeling, not a commercial decision. And you know, I'm very shocked here from Adam that Cortex was a little bit rough. You know, once we started this thing, last week, it's only kind of a marketing drive. Like ADT, had a purpose meeting, they had signed up in for family. Cortex was given the chance to put the proposal on the table. Now there was another chance, and no, it's not how it works now. You have to go a good faith with people actions in faith. I'm the toxic best security, you can only use a feature. So I'm going to know skinny. So please, let's get on board, let's get ourselves in step.
If we take on CSS, CSS will know that we are scared to move if they do not provide service. We want service, we want continuing service. And that is one reason why we go for a single provider. Losing even 100 customers in Parkers is relatively nothing. Losing the whole Parkers and the threat of losing the whole Parkers contract will be something that we can give them a good care.
No, so what we're going to ask for is signed debit orders that will only be processed. Look, I mean, some people don't. No. So, yeah, that's actually a good point. So you see, the point is that is your branch. Yeah.
We serve people what's
You see, the problem, so I think that's probably the best way of doing it. The problem is converting pages, and anyone who's done a street camera solution knows that everyone thinks it's a fantastic idea, how hard to please support it until the money needs to flow. But I think it is going to process. I think you're right, that we need to get indication of support. If we have that support, then we will convert and say, right, now we need to follow up and get signed financially. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, just based on the CSS is 375. So Cortec can pay the same. They're 700 subscribers. There's differential pricing between Parkhurst and Parktown North. So, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to get a consistent number from Parkhurst. That's why we say you'll pay the same. Because some people are paying 780, other people are paying 660. So we can't give you a definitive number. I think in Parktown North it's 101.4, including that. So all the subscribers, all the Cortex Park subscribers convert. Sorry, that's the correct. If they all convert, and all the Parkers, and they don't need to convert because it's just going forward, then Cortex will kick off that solution that they provide. Dogs, foot patrols, 64 cameras, as you saw. Sorry. And we also so just indicative, what CSA is saying, because as you'll see, every file that would be generated by files. But on the P75, just for on response, we split it to 60, 2/3. So if you only sign for the day, you would pay about 680 compared to 480. But that's about 200. If you take both, CSS is you will pay the same. So if I just proactively 680, and I think about 465. But if you take both, you will pay the same. If you take both, I will pay 101. And then you go past the toll, and then you will disclose what is the Look, I mean, our belief is, and yeah, I mean, we have created challenges, but I mean, ultimately they both organizations, and that's why they ended up with the.
I think it's the insurance you want. This is about public space.
It's fine, yeah.
So I want to talk about it later, but I think it's just try and simplify this process because the committee is, phenomenally impartial. And the reality is, if you're coming here now, I've been asked to be impartial. The reality is that I can't be impartial because the committee took a decision, right? It was a decision of the majority in favor of CSS. And the reason that we took that decision because the sales pitch was compelling. Right? And that's what you're asking. You're asking all of these little pieces of minutiae. What are you going to get? How much is it going to cost? And the reality is, it's quite simplistically. You said that we currently contribute 470,000 rand and we're paying that to Cortec, and we were paying that same amount to CSS. The product that CSS have committed to giving is infinitely better. Right? And we don't even mince our words about it because I don't really care about which one of them. Cortec, CSS, I have no personal affiliation to either one of them. I want to make sure the stadium is looked after. So I can tell you, from what we have provided, nothing changes outside of the status quo value. CSS is providing an infinitely better system. Can they do what they're promising? That's a tiny different story, which you can contractually bind people to do. So you can give them a limited time frame and say they should, which is what Michael's job will do. And you say, clean slate, these are your operatives, these are your objectives, go ahead and make it happen.
So from a business perspective, I think that's the simplicity of what we are there next to however, to say is CSS for the same amount of money will provide as good plus so they have benefits and you spend 6 months going into all the technical detail of what you understand the culture is. That's basically what we really wanted to know. That's so if you are
Well, yeah. sorry, can I understand that you wouldn't get the volumes?
Sorry.
Sorry.
I just a suggestion to the committee. Maybe I don't think it's going to be possible for the next meeting, but as an example, if you say to us on this graph or something, say spend $1,000 per household, this is what you get per family. Spend 3,000 rand per family, this is what you're going to get. This is the critical numbers we need, so we can see that.
Okay. No, I think it's important.
That cameras and technology is key. That's the answer from
Michael.
Yeah. So to be sure this is camera because I mean I've written with cameras all these things that you hear in terms of the speed of detection, you really expect from a camera system the light and so on. The other type of purpose that our high-tech solution is necessary solution versus a traditional solution. That's the part that I think is great. People think that high-tech is necessary solution, but I'm not the others.
So just to throw a couple convincing factors for you. So firstly, look at the cost of labor, strike protests and that kind of stuff is going up, technology is going down. So in terms of rolling out the more effective solution, you can do that a lot easier using technology. However, it's important that the right solution is implemented. So you're not going to put 400 cameras and no analytics and that kind of stuff. So, but where technology is at nowadays, so firstly, cameras aren't going to sleep. Cameras at night are how much more effective if you take thermal cameras. So all that adds up. Analytics as well, is that you can set it that you can have one slightly more qualified person monitoring 100 cameras as opposed to one guard in a street covering 100 meters. So there's another element towards technology. So those are important factors to look at it. And if you look at other areas, if you look at worldwide as well, the implementation of technology is basically increasing, and rollout of manpower is actually going down. So there are a number that may be part of this presentation as well. I can give a couple key elements in terms of technology. But based on that, it's labor, the analytics, and smart integrated solutions lead towards a much more effective solution.
And an indicative example in South Africa, 9 years ago, they rolled out the Health Center, a comprehensive CCTV camera system that was monitored and maintained for about 3 or 4 years, and that was done in the city of Johannesburg. That is the spark of catalyst, allowing people like me to go in and start redeveloping. Because crime came down significantly. It wasn't just small noticeable differences, it was sizable. And that's again what we find in the proposal. That will hopefully be catalyst to allow criminal elements to start to look at other environments, to get away from parks, to get away from park tunnels, to get away from all of these other peripheral areas that CSS is in control of. So you start to get a bigger network of connectivity. We don't roll out as we have connectivity to cameras, but we are still ad hoc and still in isolation. So you can go and create all of these initiatives, and it takes a huge amount of effort and time and money to go and do these things, but you're still isolated. It's no good sense in having a single road block that's got camera coverage when the person can run away from the camera into 15 streets that don't have any coverage. So it is a sustainable, systemic overview that needs the community buy-in, needs a single system like CSS has proposed to have specific cameras in specific strategic areas that can start to collate, consolidate the environment, make it safer, immediately. It's not, any rollout plan, it's an immediate rollout of cameras that significantly reduce time from what's being told not only by experts, but what's being told.
This is interesting, while we think about pricing. I just look at the green side of business association, gets it that they say that they're doing this thing, that the deputy public space security cost $135 to a million member of CSS. If you're a member of another security provider, you have to pay $2. Just to give you some idea.
Yeah. But again, it's what we've got divided by who's and that's why we put
just with green side is that it's and also consulting, it's a particularly split community. So you've got CAP as well, you've got CSS. fighting for the CSS was dominant, and then CAP recently came in as well. So that's put a bit of a standard in the work. Just bear it.
Can I ask something? What kind of CSS got in
Yeah, so between 60 and 70%, because we've got a very cohesive residents association as well, campaigning.
Yeah, and those are our figures currently, and Prabha hasn't started working on growing up.
Look, unfortunately, we had the Q&A right undermined our initiative.
We started, you're talking history. Yeah. I'm not interested in history.
But it's happening
history
again.
is past. We have, I'm not at least another 20 years in past.
But I just say it's an interesting observation because I know Anne is the one who's promoting the idea that it should go to another committee, and Anne can sit on the committee and not make any personal attacks on anyone over here. Anne is part of the Central Johannesburg Partnership, which was funded by Neil, started by Neil Fraser 20 years ago, and again, there was a process to review the only improvement districts that have been functional have been the ones that have been absolutely managed and monitored like dictatorships. And there are very few of those that exist in the city today, which is why they are so massively fragmented, and which is why in most instances they are breaking. So it's the same process. You have to start somewhere. You have to have a core focus, and that allows it. If it's done well, and again, this is exactly what CSS was proposing. They're putting in 3 million rand to roll out cameras. Cortex said, sorry, we're not interested in putting in cameras. 3 million rand commitment is, to my mind, is a pretty convincing point, just as a starting point, outside of all the other things that they're doing. Okay, with the greatest of respect, you weren't party to any of these things. They had every opportunity to make a submission. They were made aware of the fact that they had lost, and they turned around and said, oh, sorry, we have a little bit more that we can offer you. That, to my mind, is not the way around.
What is this email? 4.7 million rand investment.
Yeah, I think, okay, so
Please make your decision,
that is,
but again, I do want to believe that the committee has given this phenomenal amount of consideration, and I do want to believe
Just one quick question. So what is the proposed way forward now? I would like something like we did. You want a moral commitment?
we've already committed to the decision that's made, we've already committed to CSS. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I object to say that we're morally committed to CSS. We're not. I get what
you say.
What I am saying is, I would back the committee because they've gone into it in more detail than I could, and they're more capable.
So you might say that it's right.
What I think would also be good to make it easier for people to make a decision would probably be when it was Umata, it was like, okay, we need 30% of the suburb, and then we have that price.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion.
You say like, okay, we need so much to get it off the ground, the stock will be roughly what? 700, 800, what will it be? So, because if it's 2,000, then I'm like,
No.
If it's
no.
I'm on board, yes.
No. And we that's why we appreciate it cannot be 2,000 because you'll never get it off the ground. Yeah. And that's why we're looking to get it to roughly what you can currently if you're contributing to the core parks of solution.
So that's what I'm saying. If we then take that, okay, give your moral commitment, I think you probably get it fast off the ground.
And I think that's what you spoke about. So we're going to be seeking a moral commitment. We'll then look to converting that moral commitment into a financial commitment, and we'll take it from there.
And we can do that on the Prabhupada website.
We will put a link on the Prabhupada to the survey. Yeah. Or the